Alright guys, so we're going to the movies.
This is kind of a week late, but you know, whatever. We're going to the movies anyway, so screw it.
We're gonna go see Jungle Book.
A lot of people have loved this movie. It's saying that it's one of the few remakes that actually improves on the original, on where the original kind of failed. We'll see about that.
Yeah. And we kind of liked the Jungle Book when we were kids, but I guess we were never. But you know, it was Disney. I don't think we haven't seen it in forever. So
I think it was like 2001, 2003, whenever the sequel came out.
yeah, that was pretty much the last time we saw it, I think.
And you know, we like Jon Favreau stuff. It's pretty. Jon Favreau is pretty good as a good director, even though this is kind of out of his element, since it's basically him going from live action directing to animation directing for the most part.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens, but
In the end, our opinion doesn't really matter because it's getting a sequel anyway, along with Jon Favreau coming back to the Avengers.
yeah, so we're just gonna give our opinions, but ultimately there's no point because it's already number one in the box. Going to be number one in the box office again for the second week. There's going to get a sequel, and Jon Favreau's going back to Marvel and everything, so well, it doesn't matter what we say, but we're giving our opinion anyway.
So, whatever, we'll see you after the jump.
Yep. Alright guys, we're out.
Alright, so let's talk a little bit. Let's chat. I liked it.
It was really good.
And there's a lot to talk about, so now let's discuss.
For one thing, the celebrity voice cast was really great. It was like you knew who they were, but it didn't really deter you from the movie. Like Bill Murray as Baloo was like the best casting that's been for him probably in a long time for him.
I loved Bill Murray as Baloo. He could have just as easily copied Phil Harris's performance to the letter, but he just made it his own thing.
Yeah, and then we had Scarlett Johansson as Ka. She wasn't in it all that much, but when she was in it, she was pretty creepy.
Christopher Walken as King Louie. No, he did a great job.
He was freaking hilarious. There's even an SNL bit. There's even an SNL reference in the movie, in it. And you wouldn't believe that there would be an SNL reference, but there's a freaking SNL reference in there.
And it's great, and it's subtle. So, because I literally had to point it out. I just went over to me. I leaned over to Mason and I was like, "Did you get it? Do you get it?"
And I was like, "I don't get it." And I didn't understand it until he leaned over and told me, but I got it. But then immediately after he said, "Did you get it?" I was like, "Oh my god, I got it."
Yeah. So keep a lookout for that.
We had Lupita Nyong'o. She was pretty good. She was pretty good in this and she of course has an Oscar, so she's pretty good in a lot of stuff.
Well, it doesn't mean everything, but still. You know, there was one wolf cub that they focused on, particularly because he played the actor who plays him played Jon Favreau's son in Chef.
But obviously that was okay. I mean, child actor wise, this was a pretty damn good movie, especially with Neil Sethi.
Yeah.
I think his name is pronounced Neil.
Yeah, that's something like that.
I don't know. I don't know. It's spelled weird. It's spelled differently. I don't know how his name is spelled, exactly how his name is pronounced, but he was good, and we're probably going to see more of him after he's done with this franchise, because he was pretty damn good working with CGI and working only with CGI animals.
When it comes down to when it comes down to real things in this movie, it's like 90% CGI. So essentially, it's an animated movie. There's only like two actual human actors in this movie.
The practical effects were real, and the practicality was very nice because you could tell he was interacting with this actual stuff, and he was in these actual and at some points he was actually in these environments and everything. So
it's not like it's 100% CGI. There's some practical. There are points where he's running against natural special effects.
And the fact and also he was working alongside, as Jon Favreau pointed out on the Tonight Show, he was working alongside puppets. He wasn't just talking to air.
Yeah, and also also, well, let's talk about the music, because Richard Sherman, and if you don't know who that is, you're clearly not as big a Disney fan as we are. Richard Sherman came back and wrote a brand new verse on "I Want to Be Like You" for this.
Yes, and that is pretty freaking awesome. That in his, I don't even know anymore. But he's pretty old. But he's pretty old at this point. His brother has passed and everything. So he's the last of the legendary Sherman brothers. So of the Disney legend Sherman brothers. So it's awesome that he came back for this movie. And the score was interesting because there was definitely in particular. During the King Louis sequence, I noticed that the score was very similar. That there were points in the movie where the score was similar to the score in the original animated movie.
Yeah, I mean, at points because for some of the songs they weren't necessarily singing them; they were just like reciting them. Like in the King Louis scene, Christopher Walken was half singing, half talking the actual lines from "I Want to Be Like You." So the score kind of matched up to the actual music to "I Want to Be Like You." You don't hear Christopher Walken actually fully sing "I Want to Be Like You" until the credits, by the way.
And then Bill Murray, of course, sang "Bare Necessities," and he's pretty freaking good at singing that. And it sounded like it, and you could tell he was having a blast.
Well, it is his first ever character, CGI voice character.
Yes, it is his first. No, there is no other CGI voice character.
Because that did not happen.
Either time did not happen.
And Ben Kingsley as Bagheera, originally he was going to be Indian. He chose English drill sergeant, and it worked great with the character.
It wasn't until like partway through the movie I was like, "That's Bill Murray and Ben Kingsley in a scene together."
And Idris Elba was incredible as Shere Khan. He was gruff. He was angry.
His voice was so powerful. You could just hear the reverberating of the microphone. You could almost hear the reverberating of the microphone at times.
It's because he was probably just eating that mic. And then something that I don't think a lot of people realize about this movie is that it actually features the final performance of the late Gary Shandling. He plays a somewhat small but incredibly funny cameo as a porcupine. If you recognize who he is, from Iron Man 2 or just the Marvel series in general, or the Larry Sanders Show, you'll recognize his voice, so you'll be able to point out exactly who he is.
But it's pretty great that we still have that he gave this final performance, and right until the end he was able to make us laugh.
So that's awesome. And the movie was incredible, and I don't think we actually talked about the directing. It's great. It's obviously Jon Favreau took a lot of work on how to actually move a camera in a CGI environment from his work on the 2 Iron Man movies, because he had to work a lot with CGI in those movies, and Elf, because he also had to work with CGI in Elf. People don't remember that there was some work with
animation in Elf.
So he clearly learned how to move a camera through those kinds of things.
But ultimately, Jon Favreau did a great job. And the animals looked so realistic that sometimes it was like you forgot you were looking at some CGI renderings on a screen. You thought they were real moving animals.
Yeah, and the one thing I'm surprised about for Jon Favreau directing it is I'm surprised he didn't give himself a cameo somewhere.
He was the warthog.
Oh. Okay then.
Yeah. So there's Jon Favreau. He was in the movie. But ultimately, I think that having never read Kipling's book, I think this is much truer to it.
Probably won't be nearly as true as whatever Andy Serkis is cooking up, because this version it's more a remake of the Disney version than it is an adaptation of the Kipling books.
But there's definitely more to it than just the Disney version. It's not just bare necessities. We are getting a darker tone to it, and the fact that Jon Favreau was able to blend the musical numbers in with this darker, grittier kind of realistic tone was pretty amazing.
Anything else?
Can't think of anything else.
All right, then. I think we're good then.
All right.
So then, just like, favorite, subscribe. No spoil. Leave a comment down below on what you thought of the Jungle Book 2016.
No spoilers in the comments. Otherwise, guys, we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.